Hey, Forrest here. Nothing like getting paid. And with ICCU's mobile app, I can deposit checks or accept Zelle payments so the money hits my account fast. I just wish there was an app for mowing the rest of these lawns.
It's the fall kickoff sale at Lithia Ford of Boise. It's the best time to trade in and trade up to a new Ford truck or SUV with the room to haul your payload or playload. Visit Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
It's time for Ball Talk with Sanford and Johnny. From what's happening on the blue at Boise State to the Mountain West and beyond. The biggest storylines, the best guests, and most outlandish opinions from two dudes who eat, sleep, and breathe college football. Today's broadcast is coming from the Cutwater Spirits Canned Cocktail Studios. Check out one of their more than 30 flavors of pre-mixed premium cocktails at your local gas station or grocery store. Cutwater Canned Cocktails is perfect for your next game day tailgate party. Ball Talk with Sanford and Johnny, featuring former Boise State quarterback and longtime coach Mike Sanford and KTIK 95.3 FM The Ticket's Johnny Mallory on Bronco Nation News.
Season 2, Episode 2, celebrating one of the glorious weekends in our nation's annual year, Labor Day weekend and week 1 of the college football season. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Another edition of Ball Talk. I'm Johnny Ballgame. Coach Mike Sanford over there. This is the only time we really get to talk anymore during the week, Coach. We're both busy doing our other kind of work that we do. You in Denver, me here in Boise. But good to see your face. Gonna be good to hear your voice. Let's rock and roll, Coach. What's up?
Let's do this, man. Hey, it is finally here. It is here. It's college football, as you said. I am so excited. I'll tell you the perfect appetizer last Saturday. Like, I don't know if I've ever watched Montana State, New Mexico with as much passion and vitriol as I've ever watched a college football game in my life. For the Nevada Wolfpack and Jeff Choate giving SMU all they could handle is dang near 25-point plus dogs. It was a great appetizer to whet the palate just a little bit. But here we are. Real college football, a full slate. We're not just getting appetizers, man. We got the main course. We got desserts, which is the late night games, always typically on the West Coast. And it is going to be a celebration for those who love this great game. And
Such a great week. Yeah. And for half of the fans, they get to be, or in most cases, 1-0, and then they're feeling really good. 0-1. Everybody's panicking, obviously. But, yeah, I'm with you on that. You get to wet your beak a little bit, but think about this. Starting tomorrow, and I know you're paying close attention to your Buffs and what they're going to try to do in the opener against North Dakota State, the Bison, with the Z, Coach, with the Z. But Thursday night, Friday night, all day Saturday. Sunday, you got a juicy LSU, USC. And then Monday, you got the Labor Day game, Boston College, I think against Florida State. So we can see Florida State in that situation. But the next 5 days, you got nothing but football. So, yeah, we're fired up. This episode of Ball Talk, we are going to hammer Boise State, Georgia Southern, every which way, every which angle. The Broncos leave town tomorrow, Coach, flying in on a Thursday. For all that reasons, maybe we can discuss with you a little bit. So we'll hammer you guys with week 1, get you ready for the Boise State game, and some other stuff we'll get to, obviously. Picks, your questions. We'll try to answer, every one of them tonight. So get them in the chat there, and let's have some fun. Ball Talk Season 2, Episode 2. Coach, before we get into it, though, you're a man of many hats. What, Billy Media, Mikey Media, your new name. Apparently, BJ wants me to get this out there. It's a done deal. It's a done deal. Mike Sanford will be hosting the Taco Bell postgame show here on BNN following Boise State football game. So get your comments in on that. Sanford, you've done a lot of stuff. This will be your first gig where you're actually hosting, driving, and getting this postgame show like it's never been done before here at BNN. And I know you're pumped, brother. Congratulations.
No, I'm really excited. This is something that BJ and I talked about. And there are a couple games this year that I'm going to be calling here in Denver, up at CSU a couple times. But any opportunity that I can have, I want to be available for our awesome viewers to be able to give instant feedback, instant analysis. I want to engage the comments. We love when those comments are just rolling on in. I can't wait to break down this Georgia Southern Boise State game. It's going to be really fun to watch. It's going to be really interesting. And the great thing about it that BJ is really excited about is that he can now go get the full content down in the locker room, get all of the post-game interviews while I'm driving. And I've never driven in a media space before. This is going to be my debut driving. What that means to those that don't either like the media or know much about the media is that it's the person that is taking the controls, is setting the tempo, setting the pace of that show. And then ultimately BJ is going to be joining me once he returns from the locker room with instant reactions from Spencer Danielson, from the players. But until that point, it might be 30 up to an hour and 15 minutes. You just never know. Last year we waited forever. I was up in the box by myself at the CSU Boise State game. And it seemed like, BJ was down there for almost 2 hours before we were able to start the show, but not anymore. Right when that Boise State Georgia Southern game's done, jump immediately onto all the socials. I'll be broadcasting on BJ's YouTube channel, on his Bronco Nation News channel, on my Twitter channel. And so just get the word out that we are going to be jumping on immediately after the game, probably within 5 minutes of the final whistle. So it's going to be great.
That's going to be big.
And you know what else is cool is I'm batching it this weekend. It's just me and my 14-year-old daughter.
Nice.
My wife and Gunnar and Griffin are headed up to go watch. My wife's brother is the quarterback coach over at BYU. Yep. BYU opens up hosting Southern Illinois. So the Salukis and the Cougars. So it's just me batching it, doing all kinds of football, and I can't wait to watch all the games. But there's one game that I am really excited for, and that's my alma mater, and watching this Boise State team go after it in a very tough environment. Sellout down in Statesboro, Georgia. It's going to be fun.
I want you guys to comment a score prediction. Let's fire up the Sandman a little bit. What do you think the score is going to be, Bronco Nation, Boise State, Georgia Southern on Saturday? Week 1. What the hell is this like for coaches? Because I know 0-1 isn't the end of the world, but when you are 0-1 as a coach, you're probably thinking, okay, well, we can't be 0-2. What was camp like? Are we as good as we think we are? Are we as bad as we think we are? I mean, I'm sure there's just nightmares that come with week 1 because you don't get the preseason. You don't get any reps against anybody else in college football. And that is with how big college football is now. Each year that makes less and less sense, but that really is the case in college football. You don't play against anybody else until that week 1 game. What's it like for coaches, man? What's going on with Spencer Danielson, this staffs you've been on? Give us a little week 1 stuff.
Well, I mean, you could see some of those score predictions rolling in. We even had some Georgia Southern, some enemies in our territory here, which we love.
Smart fan base.
Yeah, smart fan base. Prepare for the game. This is the place to go. All the different shows on Bronco Nation News. If you want to prepare for what you're going to see in Statesboro, Georgia, if you're making the trip down I-75 down, made that trip many times to recruit down in South Georgia. Some of the best football players in all of college football. But, going back to your question, I think there's the unknown, no matter what you have. I remember there are seasons that I felt really good about the returning depth. And then the night before the game, you're like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how we're going to play. I don't know how we're going to match up in the trenches. I don't know how good our offseason was. I mean, everybody's working their tails off. So it's the great unknown that I think really eats up coaches and cuts into your sleep, not just the night before the game, but sometimes several nights before the game, sometimes weeks before the game. And that's why a lot of these coaches have those big bags under their eyes, kind of like I do right now. But I think that's the biggest thing is the unknown. And I think the biggest unknown for me over my career and when I particularly started out as a head coach is, no matter who the matchup is up against. I was a brand new head coach of Western Kentucky in 2017. And we opened the season with, I believe it was 4 out of 5 of the offensive linemen that were starting for our football team. They were freshmen and first-time starters, freshmen, redshirt freshmen, maybe a sophomore mixed in there. And I felt like we had a possibility to be dominant in the trenches based off training camp. And we opened up with Eastern Kentucky, an FCS opponent. And my thought process is we're going to identify and establish a culture that we're going to be a physical football team. Well, about 5 run plays into that game, I realized that we were going to have some struggles, and everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the mouth. And, I know that Boise State feels really good about 4 out of 5 offensive line starters returning, and then it sounds like right tackle help me with who won how is it Hall Schmidt?
Looks like it. Yep. Big fella, man.
But hey, BJ, don't forget, man, there's a little posturing going on between Clay Helton and maybe even Spencer Danielson. I haven't seen any depth charts. Have you?
Yeah, what goes into that? Yeah, they're not releasing theirs, so Boise State isn't releasing its, and we're just playing kind of depth chart drama. And, Coach Bedell explained this to me really well earlier today on BNN that coaches really rely on depth charts, or at least so they can get some sort of idea for what kids to pay attention to, not to mention nowadays with transfer portals, you don't know if a guy on the portal jumps on a roster. You don't know where he's going to be, apparently, with that depth chart. So that's a lot of gamemanship. You guys ever get into anything like that, not releasing depth charts and stuff? What do you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, I prefer, I'm the son of a coach. My dad's, still coaching 40 some odd years. And, there was a way that things were done 15, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, where you just, you release the depth chart, at Tuesday or Wednesday. Typically, it's like your opening press conference for the game week where you've put the previous game to bed. You do address the injury stuff that might be out there. What I did when I was a head coach is I released a depth chart, and I did play a little bit of gamesmanship with a lot of ors on there. But the reality was we did have a lot of ors, which usually is not a great sign of your football team. If it's just or, you don't really have established number ones at a whole lot of positions. So you play rotational football until you figure out, who are your real guys, who are your main guys, which is not always a bad thing. One thing that I particularly hated about getting into depth chart palooza is that you oftentimes I love setting up my defensive scout team, when I'm an offensive coordinator, even as a head coach where I'm involved in play calling and game planning. And I like to put the jersey numbers of the starters on our scout team for the starting numbers of the defense that we're about to play. And you might think, oh, big deal. Who cares? They're just numbers. Well, a lot of times it's this particular defensive end, right, is going to line up to try to find a one-on-one. It could be boundary, it could be field. They might even have a defensive end move inside. That could be number 97. For example, when Michigan wasn't releasing a whole lot of depth charts, that was Aiden Hutchinson. So we had to extrapolate in an opener when I was the offense coordinator at Minnesota, where exactly Aiden Hutchinson would be lined up. And so we guessed. The other one that you get a lot is like the nickel sub packages. So if you're playing in 21 personnel, 2 running backs, typically a fullback, could be 21 pony, which would be 2 tailbacks, and then a tight end, or 12 personnel, which is 1 running back and 2 tight ends. In either one of those scenarios, you a lot of times see base personnel. So you see a true 3-4 in terms of 3 interior type of body line down linemen, body types, and then 4 backers, right? Edge player, and then a big Sam linebacker. Well, you get into 10 or 11 personnel, defenses sub, because you want to get, 4 wide receivers or 3 wide receivers on the field. They want to bring their nickel in. And so then it's important that you identify at the quarterback position, at the O-line position, who's the nickel and where do they line their nickel up? Most people will line them to the field as the adjuster, whether it's a 3-by-1 or 2-by-2 formation. Typically that player ends up midpointing the tackle and the number 2 receiver in 2-by-2 to the field. But there's other teams that do different things with the nickel. Dime packages on third down. you want to get coverage players on the field. So I wanted players to play those roles the whole week. And when I gave them that jersey as a scout team player, I wanted that scout team player to go study the player that they're emulating for the next 5 days. And so it was oftentimes really frustrating in openers in particular, where you didn't have any type of starting depth. And I think this is a storyline for this game, because Georgia Southern, by all accounts, really haven't clearly named a starting quarterback.
They have J.C. French.
Okay, so Jesse
has
French
been named. He was kind of a backup guy last year. Hasn't played much. Transfer from Memphis 1 year there.
Okay, yeah. So obviously at the quarterback position, but there's a lot of different battles that are going on, right? You don't know who's going to be the pass rusher, who's going to be the the nickel position. Are they going to play a big Sam like Iowa sometimes plays? That's the type of stuff that you don't know until you get really any proof of what they're trying to do defensively and with what type of personnel they're employing.
Any coach that you worked with, whatever, that you thought, you know what, that's how you do week one. Whatever the prep is, whatever you do to make guys a little looser. These are human beings. These are kids. Some of them are nervous as hell out there. Will never be this nervous before or again in their life. And sometimes you don't play well. Anxiety's a sucker, man. Like, what coach that you have seen in your time, like, dude, that guy knows week one. He knows how to operate it and have this team ready to somehow, some way, without any with the unknown going on all camp about what we're going to look like, and to come out and look well.
I would say, Brian Kelly did a really good job. What I loved about Brian Kelly as a week one opener type head coach is, for as intense as he appears to be on game day, he was really good with the messaging leading up to the opening game. And I think about back-to-back openers that we had in 2015 and 2016, the 2 years I was there, working under Brian Kelly as an offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, with Mike Denbrock, now back at Notre Dame as the offensive coordinator, last with BK at LSU. The thing I liked about what Brian Kelly did was the messaging. Like, he would lay out kind of what our intent was as a team going into that game. Like, who were we going to be, what we're going to be all about. And we just, there was a calmness to our football team going into that game. And we coached those players very hard in practice, but anytime we got together, around the facility, whether it was 5 months before the game or 5 hours before the game, BK was really good at setting the temperature, and he just eluded confidence. I mean, exuded confidence. He gave off such a confident vibe. So yeah, that was something that I thought, what he did really well. And in 2015, we opened up with Texas, and it was the first time that I think the Longhorns had visited Notre Dame Stadium in decades, and put on a masterpiece of a game on all. I think it was Malik Zaire set the all-time Notre Dame Stadium passing record in his first real start as an opening day starter. And then the next season, offensively, we ended up having a great opener against Texas. We lost the football game. It was the 18-wheeler of Tyrone Swoops, if you remember. Was
that the Texas is back game? You were Notre Dame's OC that game?
Yep. Texas is back.
Texas is back. Yeah, that was
Charlie
you guys.
Strong was the head coach, and then
David Robinson's son caught a teater for you, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Corey Robinson. You're right.
Yes, yep. David, I remember that game.
We had Torrey Hunter Jr.
Yes,
catching a touchdown. We had you said it, Corey Robinson, David Robinson's son, and then we also had Little Ray. So you remember the movie Ray about the musician Ray?
Ray Charles.
Ray Charles. Yeah, Ray Charles, my guy. So the child actor that played Ray was our kick returner, and also a slot receiver that had a big game. That's
a cool story.
And we had John Bon Jovi's kid as a walk-on DB that was a scout team player.
No, Bon Jovi's son played football at Notre Dame. Man. At Notre Dame, John Bon Jovi, was that a favor? Just like, hey guys, it's Bon Jovi's kid. This is good for the program. If he's on the team, was it one of the hosts? I mean, was he big?
I think
position did he play?
Well, he was a corner. Awesome dude. He actually is running a cool business. He's started his own, kind of Hampton, the Hampton area. What is that area in New York? The Hamptons. Yeah. So he started his own like strawberry alcohol spritzer type deal for the Hamptons. And so, yeah, he's an awesome dude, man. He's super fun to have around. Great dude. Fit in with the culture at Notre Dame really well, and was loved by everybody, not just because his dad was John Bon Jovi. It was cool when John Bon Jovi when he would come around practice and stuff. He was the coolest dude ever, man. Just a normal cat, good dude, loved ball. It didn't act like he was a guy that sold out arenas and stadiums for the last 30 years. So it was really cool.
That is cool. The Notre Dame stories with Sanford, we love them. I hope you got a big, fat, greasy, juicy mic drop tonight, Coach. Let's get to it after these messages.
All Bronco Nation News broadcasts come from the Western Collective Studios. Head down to Western Collective's locations in Garden City or downtown Boise to try some of their delicious beers. That includes the Horseshoe Golden Ale, the first beer in the country to support an NIL collective. A portion of the proceeds from each sale of the Horseshoe Golden Ale go directly to Boise State student athletes via the Horseshoe Collective. Western Collective's beers, including the Horseshoe Golden Ale, are available at most major retailers in Idaho. Western Collective, the studio sponsor at Bronco Nation News. Our title sponsor at Bronco Nation News is rowpaint.com. For over 23 years, Row Painting has built a name synonymous with excellence in the painting and coatings industry. We serve a diverse portfolio of clients, including residential homeowners and homeowners associations, commercial businesses, general contractors, and industrial site purchasers. All of their clients receive the peace of mind that comes with expert project management, safe, skilled, and experienced painters, and professional-grade equipment. They provide a stress-free experience while solving your painting needs. They've completed more than 11,500 projects, including the back patio and garage in the Rains house, and they can do your project next. Our title sponsor, again, check them out online, roepaint.com. Give them a call, 208-991-0567. The official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics and the title sponsor of Bronco Nation News, roepaint.com. Idaho Central Credit Union has been helping members achieve financial success for more than 80 years. The closest Idaho Central Credit Union branch is in your pocket with free eBranch mobile and online banking. Don't have time to run to the branch to deposit your check? No problem. With Idaho Central Credit Union's mobile deposit feature in the mobile banking app, you can deposit your check anytime, anywhere. See why over 500,000 members love Idaho Central Credit Union. Again, that's 1 in 4 Idahoans. Make the switch today at iccu.com. Lithia Ford of Boise supports Boise State Athletics as the official car and truck of the Broncos and through NIL deals with Jonah Dalmas, Andrew Simpson, Ahmed Hassanin, and Matt Lauder. 4 Boise State football players rocking vehicles from Lithia Ford, as well as Paige Barsh from the volleyball team and Brooke Patterson from the women's golf team. The fall kickoff sale is going on today at Lithia Ford of Boise. Check them out online. View their full inventory of vehicles at lithiafordboise.com. For your next car or truck purchase, think Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
All right, Coach. Week 2, Season 2, Ball Talk. You know it. You love it. Let's have it. Your mic drop.
All right, Bronco Nation, and more importantly, Ball Talk Nation. We love you. We love that you should join us. There's hundreds watching us right now live. Even to Eagle Nation, welcome to Ball Talk. Welcome to the mic drop. My name is Mike Sanford. If you don't know me, I coached at Boise State, played at Boise State, and then coached all over the country for about 18 years. And this right here is the mic drop. And here it's pretty simple. It's opening week, right? There is so much that has been surrounding this program regarding the selection of the starting quarterback. Maddox Madsen, Mad Dog, congratulations. You won the starting job. Malachi Nelson, 5-star quarterback. So much a part of what this offseason was all about in terms of the hype and the expectations that are placed on this team. He didn't go away, still on this team, just didn't win the starting job. What happens? I'm here to tell you that we've made way too much about this, and that's what we do in the media. That's what we do as a fan. We make a huge deal about all things involving the quarterback position, especially when one of those guys is a 5-star former recruit that came to USC and then ended up at Boise State. But the reality is, let's put that all to the side, because right now that's only a distraction from what we as fans need to be looking forward to. And what we as fans, and me as an alum and now a fan, not a player, not a coach anymore, obviously, is that we have to have a realization of what we have going to Statesboro, Georgia, to take on the Georgia Southern Eagles. We have arguably the deepest, most athletic, biggest trenches roster that this school has ever had. Okay. And that's not me making it up. That's not me having my blue colored glasses on. That's an absolute reality. This is a team that is picked by many, almost all, if you watch College Game Day, of all the big national prognosticators to be the group of 5 representative in this new CFP 12-team playoff. Well, the reality of why that's the case is you got the best player, in my opinion, that's returning in all of college football. You got the running back, Ashton Jeanty, running behind an offensive line with 4 returning starters that I saw last year in person at the CSU game. And I said, that ain't exactly what I have been used to seeing with group of 5 football. This doesn't look like a group of 5 offensive line. They play together. They're experienced. And not to mention out on the perimeter, you've got crazy weapons. Prince Strawn, Austin Bolt, Caples. You got Marshall coming in. You've got major weapons on the perimeter. Now you go over to the defensive side of the ball. Experience, the interior, the edges. You got one of the best sack masters in all of college football in Ahmed Hassanin. This defense has played together. They've gone through their hard times. They've dealt with the adversity. And let's keep going on to the specialist. I think that might be the strength of the football team. You got some of the best specialists in all of college football. You've got Jonah Dalmas, who's going to be starting in the National Football League as a kicker very, very soon. You've got JFR. He's going to be throwing bombs everywhere and doing all kinds of crazy stuff and pinpointing accurate punts to wherever he wants to cough and kick any type of punt. And then you got Stacy Collins, big addition in the offseason, leaves Penn State on his own accord to come back to Boise State and lead the special teams. Not to mention the coaching staff. This is a coaching staff that has put all kinds of great product out there, and it starts with your offensive coordinator, Dirk Cutter. So I think that this whole quarterback debate's been a big distraction from certainly within Bronco Nation from the reality of how damn good this football team is, how damn experienced this football team is. All right. So enjoy every minute that you have to watch this football team. I sure as hell know that I will. But I'd also say this is a team that has welcomed all of the hype. It's welcomed all of the expectations. It's talking openly about being a college football playoff representative for the group of 5. So that's the expectation. That's the standard. That's the Boise State standard. It always has, and it always will be. So let's not let this distraction of Maddox Madsen, Malachi Nelson get in the way of the real reality that this is arguably the best returning roster in the history of this program. And the standard is the standard, and that is to be the biggest storyline, not for 1 week, not for 2 weeks, but for the next 4 months in all of college football from the group of 5. And that is my mic drop. It's time to go win big on the biggest stage in college football.
Mic drop, Coach Sanford, right here on Ball Talk. Okay, I'm with you. The expectations massively high. There's really very few concerns, I think, with this team, but I still think there are some. Let's get to this game. Georgia Southern 5-1 at home last year, Ball State. They're really good there. They've been really good there historically. This is a big deal. They're down to a couple hundred tickets available. This thing will be sold out there. Boise State 2 touchdown favorites. I think Circa Sports has a minus 13.5 or minus 14. I'm not sure where I am on that. Probably right now, Coach, I would probably lean towards taking the points as an emotional hedge. That way, if Boise State kicks their ass and they cover, I'm like, okay, cool, they lost. That's fine. I lost my bet, but they won. All right, I was wrong, happily. And then if Boise State wins, but they don't cover, you'll say, I was right. I knew they would win, but I didn't think they'd cover. It's the emotional hedge. I'm a big believer in it, Coach. Let's hammer this one, though. Georgia Southern, Boise State. How does Boise State win this game?
Well, I think this team wins because of the playmakers, and it starts with Ashton Jeanty. Now, in the best case scenario, which I personally doubt because I have a lot of respect for the Georgia Southern program, and I also have a lot of respect for Clay Helton. He's been through the fires. He's coached in massive games. And this is going to be a Georgia Southern fan base that is going to be freaking rocking in Statesboro, Georgia. This is one of the proudest former FCS programs, much like Boise State. It just came to the Division I level, the FBS level, just a little bit after Boise State did. But this is a very proud program. You see it on Cole Swindell. He's got his little Georgia Southern hat. I don't know if you know Luke Bryan. He's got his little, they always wear it on the stage. man, this is a program that really, really takes football very seriously. This is not going to be an easy football game. And if you think it's going to be an easy football game, then I think you're dead wrong. The path forward is for Boise State to win the trench warfare early in this football game and feed and feature Ashton Jeanty in all the different ways that he creates with yards after contact, with the screen game. I just envision Dirk Cutter calling a screen in the opening series and it going for 77 yards for a touchdown. And the Ashton Jeanty Heisman conversation is blowing up the X feed across America. I do envision that happening. But I also do think that this is going to be a hot game. It's going to be a loud game. You're going into, I heard the travel. They're flying to Savannah, Georgia. It's not an easy trip. This is not, you're not flying right into Statesboro and you're just there and you show up and everything's good. I mean, you got heat, you got multiple time zones that you're crossing, and you got a really proud football team with a really experienced head football coach that I have the utmost respect for. One of my best friends in the industry.
You're a Clay Helton guy, huh?
I just respect the heck out of him. I got to know him a little bit working USC's football camps. Okay. He was great to me, but I also saw just how he ran his program. And frankly, I'm going to be really honest. I mean, the Lincoln Riley thing was so ballyhooed. It was so celebrated. Man, I thought that program was in a better place for 3 years in with Helton than it is right now going into year 3 with Lincoln Riley. And that's my honest to God opinion. That's coming from somebody that my dad played at SC, coached at SC for over a decade. So I know that program really well. I have a lot of respect for him. I know it's not an easy job. He's a Southerner. His dad, Kim Helton, tremendous football coach. They have roots that go back to Alabama, Birmingham. It's a football family. His brother, Tyson Helton, took my damn job after I got fired at Western Kentucky.
He was the interim?
No, he got hired. So he was.
Oh, you were after the end of the year. Sorry, man. Yeah. Helton's brother replaced you with the Hilltoppers?
Yep, okay. They're brothers, man. They're boys. Obviously, they're bros. I respect that guy to Tyson Helton, and that's not an easy thing to do, man. When you get fired, you typically just naturally root hard against the team that fired your ass, right?
We do the same thing in radio too. If you get fired from a station, you want their ratings to just plummet. I'm with you too, man. Yeah,
and
the guy who replaces you. We do it in our business too.
The human nature in me probably rooted it. I didn't want the kids that I'd recruited to fail, but if I would have had this roster, all that stuff. But,
totally.
Even now, I root for WKU. I've been watching my guy, Austin Reed, who I didn't coach or recruit, but he's a Western Kentucky Hilltopper. He made the roster today as a practice squad guy for the Bears on Hard Knocks. So, there's a lot of different storylines of this game. I think that this is going to be a challenge for Boise State to convincingly win this football game. They're going to have to play clean ball. They're going to have to play really clean, high execution football. The defense is going to have to. I think that this is going to be a great test for this defense, because I do think that Helton, the offensive system that he runs, good line play traditionally, but they're going to throw the ball around the park a little bit now, and I think that that's going to be interesting to see, where this defense is at in terms of tackling, playing in space. Because this is going to be a team that's going to create space, and you have a wealth of natural talented athletes in your backyard down there in South Georgia, man. It's my favorite place that I recruited when I was at Western Kentucky, was the entirety of all of the southern part of Georgia. We used to call the football players that we recruited, they called themselves this. They were the DSG boys. They were the DSB, the down South Georgia boys, DSG, baby. And there's some real football players that take this game very seriously. So it's not going to be a walk in the park. It's going to be a challenge. And I look forward to evaluating and watching it. And like I said, tune in post-game show. We'll have instant analysis, feedback, and we'll be taking all the comments.
Shout out to Taco Bell on that too. Okay, I'm trying to think of a path to victory for Georgia Southern. And the first one, and this is, I don't know if it's impossible or not. I would lean towards almost impossible. And that's one. Yeah.
You think it's almost impossible that they can
what I'm going to say,
go ahead.
This is a path to victory for Georgia Southern, and that is somehow, some way, find a way to bottle them up. Jeanty, bottle them up. Jeanty doesn't affect the game. You make Mad Dog and anybody else absolutely beat you. Now, I don't know how you game plan against that, but You've seen historically, we've seen excellent running backs, offenses based on those running backs get bottled up when they face a bad or a good defense. Maybe they have a bad matchup somewhere. Maybe they have a couple offensive linemen out, or maybe the defense, they underestimated how good that front four might be. Like, I think that's a path. If you can find a way, I'm talking Genty, 22 carries for 47 yards, 3 catches for 7 yards. Again, impossible, probably, but if Georgia Southern somehow, some way can, like I said, bottle Genty up, I think Georgia Southern can win this game. But you tell me, Coach, I don't know how the hell you do that if you've been in situations where you went up against a team that had a back like this, and somehow, some way, you freaking game planned that guy and didn't let him kill you.
Yeah, I think that's impossible. Like you said, you said it perfectly. That is impossible. You're not gonna. You can. I think you can do an effective job of making Ashton Genty earn all of his yards, right? And I do think that Georgia Southern is going to be a well-coached team, a sound defensive football team. But he's going to get his because he turns 2-yard gains into 5-yard gains. He turns 5-yard gains into 10-yard gains. He turns 12-yard gains into 25-yard gains, and he just done it time and again. And you don't think that another year of having 600 pounds on his back in a squat rack is going to make him any weaker? I mean, he's going to be stronger.
I see him every day. And even when you're not allowed to touch him, they wouldn't touch him anyway. I'm like, yeah, that's going to be fun.
Like, this is Double O'Neal brings up a good point, man. There are other good running backs on this football team.
I didn't mean that, Genty's going to have a bad day, so let's play Sire. I just meant bottle up the run in general. Boise State can't get the run going.
And you don't have George Halani, right? So you're going to have somebody playing. Tyler Crow's now playing some fullback, which I love.
It'll be Sire Gaines. Sire Gaines will touch the ball probably the second most times in this game, if you ask me.
And how many live carries has Sire Gaines had in a Division I college football game? Right,
he's 17 years old, Coach.
Right, he's a young buck. He's a very talented football player. So the best path forward for me, for Georgia Southern to win this football game, is 3 takeaways. Okay, 3 takeaways. If Georgia Southern's defense can create 3 takeaways, ideally, if you create a takeaway either by putting a helmet on a ball when Ashton Genty's carrying the rock, or Sire Gaines gets in as a rotational player, and I'm not saying he's a fumbler. I should have no basis to evaluate off of. But he's a young football player, right?
And you still have, real quick, they're still breezy. You mentioned Tyler Crow. I mean, there could be 3 or 4 players. I doubt it, but there could be 3 or 4 players that carry the rock. Highly doubt it, unless there's a blowout either way. But
yeah, because I don't see a scenario where Boise State isn't going to effectively run the football in this game, right? Just because there's proof in the pudding with this offensive line, with the tight end position with Louder, with receivers that play, Matt Miller style of football, which is toughness, right? Like, get on the damn bull and start riding it. He's a rodeo man, right? I mean, that's who this receiving group is. They want to put their face on safeties and cover up second and third level players. And so I do think that it's got to be for Georgia Southern. And this is the stuff that you absolutely have nightmares about as a coach. It's just takeaways. Georgia Southern, you don't want to turn the football over. And then I think the other piece is who's going to win the explosive play battle? Who's going to win it? And I think the length and size of receiver for Boise State is legitimate. But who's going to win it? I mean, you got to go out and execute it. You got to hit those passes. And obviously I think Maddox Madsen, he's played, he's experienced. The moment's not going to be too big for him. But he's got to play well, and he's got to go play really good football, clean football. I listened to Dirk's press conference the other day. He was talking about some of the takeaways that were happening early on in camp. And he said a lot of them were just tip balls. And whether it was, he said they weren't even line of scrimmage tip balls, but you throw into contested windows, that ball's up in the air. Those are the type of things that keep you up at night if you're coaching.
All right. That's one path. What would be the other path? And I think the other one is probably somewhat possible based on statistical data from last year. Georgia Southern's passing attack versus Boise State's pass defense. They got essentially the same safeties out there. Benefield will be playing more than he did last year. All new corners, though. McCoy wasn't your week 1 starter last year. Irby was playing at Cal, so you have those guys. But I think that's if there's an elephant in the room on this game that Boise State fan would have the one big concern for, it's, they ranked 110th last year in pass defense. They couldn't get off the field. They gave up as many splash plays, probably more splash plays than they've given up here in 30 years, maybe ever. So, I mean, if you're Clay Helton and you know him, I mean, you're paying attention to this, right? I mean, where's Georgia Southern going? Are they thinking, hey, we're going to have to score 30 plus? We're going to have to get multiple touchdowns here and score with them rather than just hope we can slow them down. Wouldn't that be the case? Like if Georgia Southern can win this thing, it's going to be a shootout.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be an interesting matchup just in terms of how, Helton and this offensive staff attacks Boise State defensively, because, on paper, you could say susceptible to the pass. Well, don't forget that a large chunk of that came in week 1 against arguably the best pass offense, maybe in college football history in terms of the receivers and Michael Penix Jr. from Washington. So when you put up a big number early on in a season like that, it's kind of hard to get back in the right side of the statistics.
Good point.
And then even the game at CSU, I mean, you bottled up CSU for 3 quarters, and then it felt like they had 400 yards passing in the dang fourth quarter alone. So there were a couple moments last year that I do think inflated those numbers. And if you are Georgia Southern and you're game planning, while you do want to maybe exploit some of these areas down the field, you've got to be cognizant of what you have in terms of your pass protection versus this pass rush, and then you add elements of second level, like nickel blitzes, you add safety blitzes. I mean, the guy that I just have so much excitement about watching his season this year is Ty Benefield.
Oh yeah.
And how he could do so many different things other than just play a traditional post safety. I feel like I'm watching him every single day out at training camp here in Denver Broncos land. And JL Skinner, man, he's that length. He's that physical guy. He's rugged. I mean, that's what I feel like I'm, by the way, made the active roster for the Broncos. So
he did,
which was really cool. He earned it. He deserved it. So I think that's going to be interesting to see. I think that tempo is going to play a role in this for Georgia Southern. If you got a team visiting, not that it's been, anywhere near 65 degrees and a light breeze in Boise, it's been a hot summer. But if you do have a team visiting, from a non-humidity state, that's the hardest thing to do, is come from dry heat to extreme humidity. Okay. In fact, I was at a Jay Sawvell press conference here for the Wyoming Cowboys, new head coach Jay Sawvell, and he was talking about their trip. They're traveling from Laramie, Wyoming, down to Arizona State, and they're playing in Tempe. It's going to be 108 degrees. He even said, he's like, it's way harder to go travel to the humidity and heat than it is to travel to 108 and dry heat. And so I think that tempo and Georgia Southern doing a good job of getting the first down and then utilizing the tempo to try to tire out and wear down, particularly the secondary of Boise State. And then, the old saying goes that fatigue makes cowards of us all. Georgia Southern is going to try to find the fatigue button for the Boise State defense. There's no doubt about it.
Hey, what's the significance of Minnesota beating Wisconsin in that game ball behind you? I know if Minnesota can pick one team to beat, they'll pick Wisconsin over probably even Michigan or Ohio State. You guys got them that time?
Yeah, so that's the Axe game right there. So you play for the Paul Bunyan's Axe, biggest rivalry by far in the upper Midwest, in my humble opinion. You do play you do play Iowa. Minnesota, Iowa plays for the Pig, the Floyd of Rossdale or Rosedale or something like that.
Every Big Ten game has something, dude.
Yeah, they're all linked to some type of trophy, and it's actually pretty damn cool. And actually, it's they're a big deal, every single one of them. But you know what? That game right there, the reason I have it front and center, that was a game that I was really proud of. We had not beaten, as a program, Minnesota had not beaten Wisconsin in Minneapolis in 20 years. God. And that was the game where we beat them. We finished that season with 9 wins. We had lost our best player, Mohamed Ibrahim, lost our best receiver, Chris Ottman-Bell. Rashad Bateman had entered the draft the year before, kind of semi-unexpectedly. And coached my ever-living ass off that game. That's why it's right there front and center. And I got fired exactly 24 hours after that game. Hey, man.
You and PJ You and PJ Fleck, and that's another episode of Ball Talk. But I forgot. Yeah, that was the last game of the year.
Yeah, I got fired after the regular season finale.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
And you still, yeah, coaching sucks, man.
Yeah, you know what? I'll just say this, man. Just like any other industry, but coaching in particular, that lesson told me you better watch your back. You better make sure that you have an ADT camera or a Ring doorbell camera in the back of your head. You got to watch your back, brother.
So much shady shit goes on.
Yeah, you win 9 games and you do something that hasn't been done in 20 years. You'd think that you'd probably be gainfully employed after that, but I guess not.
That's the way it goes. All right, sum it up. You've said the path for Georgia Southern. You've said the path for Boise State. These two teams winning. I want to get official on this, Sandman. I mean, how's this game going to go? How do you see it playing out based on your intel on both these coaches, both these systems? Everything's in this crock pot. How's this game going to go? Who's going to win? And why don't you just throw it out for kicks and gigs? Why don't you just give us a score prediction when you're done, too? What you got?
Yeah, so I think this game's going to play out. There's going to be some emotional highs and emotional lows for both teams early on. I do think that Georgia Southern is going to come out because this is a massive marquee home game for Georgia Southern, a team that still, is within their 20-year history of being close to being an FCS program. So I think that Georgia Southern is going to feed off the energy of their crowd, and that fan base is going to be loud. I think if you're a Boise State fan that's going down there to experience this, you're going to be experiencing kind of a unique brand of football, a unique brand of Southern culture and football coming to a head together. And I do think that Georgia Southern plays off of that early, particularly if Boise State gives them some type of reason by way of a mistake, by way of a turnover. But I do think that Boise State does have too many dogs. There's too many elite players in group of 5 football, but frankly, I think competitively in Power 5 football that Boise State has, that I think that Ashton Jeanty, the front, and then this defensive, I think the defensive front's going to play a massive role to eventually kind of pull this game back away. But I think it's going to feel uncomfortable for a little bit. I would be shocked if Boise State just comes out and it is perfect football from the first snap until the final whistle. I mean, that just doesn't happen very often, particularly in true road openers in hostile environments. So, but I think Boise State ends up winning this game. I believe that they're going to cover the spread. And frankly, if this is a Boise State team that is what they say they are and is what we believe them to be, minus the distraction of the quarterback situation and all that, then Boise State should roll. And I think a realistic score for this game is something along the lines of 34-20. That's kind of what I see.
That could be a push then. Don't say they're going to cover 34-20. You got to remember the world that I live in, Coach. That would be at 35-20 would be the cover, right? If it's minus 14.
Let's check right here. Let's see what we got. So, I kind of go off the ESPN app. So,
if it's 13.5, then you nailed it.
So Boise State, Georgia Southern on the ESPN bet app is Boise State is a 13-point favorite.
Okay, so you got them covering on there. If you get your bet done there, I think Circa probably has the same thing. Biggest ass-kicking blowout on the good side that you have ever been a part of as a player or as a coach at the college level. I know you guys put some spankings on my Vandals. I don't know if that was ever week 1.
Yeah, sorry, Johnny. We just didn't count those, man.
No,
I mean, dude, I'm not talking mess, man. That's just pure reality. It was what it was. There were 2 programs that were passing like 2 ships in the night. One was going on to the beautiful Caribbean, and the other one was going up to the polar ice caps at the time. All the credit in the world to Jason Eck and what he's been able to accomplish
Thank you.
with that program right now. But at the time in the early 2000s, I mean, Johnny.
Cablevision. Cablevision, man. We had Cablevision. I still remember those billboards. Cablevision.
Tom Cabes, baby.
Tom Cable, man. Yeah, your boy.
Gosh, man, talking about Idaho Vandals, man, I tell you what. It always seems that it makes me need to have my Zin 6 here.
Yeah, put a Zin in. We're talking Vandals here.
By the way,
boiling
there for a second.
What was the spread? Is it like 48.5? Idaho and Oregon 47.5. Someone can look it up, maybe put it in the chat, but it's almost 50 points. The Ducks are favored by the Vandals,
and the Vandals got pilfered, man. Their roster got absolutely
like 5 or 6 starters are playing on in FBS or power programs, and then a few others are in the NFL. Anywho, biggest ass kissing you were a part?
My favorite, just pure, just like stomping of a team.
Best 1-0 you've ever felt
was it was the 2014 game against BYU. I mean, that, BYU, Bronco Mendenhall's the head coach. They're right in the middle of a very, very good run of BYU football. They were, there's a lot of hype coming into that game, not just because of, the Boise and, the Idaho, and Utah being bordering states and all the things that go on with BYU and Boise State, but they're a good football team, man. I was mortified going into that game about their front, and I don't remember the final score. I know it was a lot to a little. But it was like a no doubter. It felt like from open whistle to the final. So, that was one for sure. And I remember a game as a road team going to BYU. And that was 2002-3 right in there. It might've been 2004. But we went there and it was a complete snow game and just dominated. I mean, we scored so much. That was a whole hell of a lot of fun.
All right. Ball talk. Sanford, Johnny. Mike Sanford, by the way, has one pick. He did pretty well last week in the picks. We're going to get to it in a second, but you got to stay. Sandman has one pick that he thinks is a stone cold, absolute, no question about it, lock. We're going to give it to you next.
The Treasure Valley freestanding Taco Bell stores are hiring. Check out TacoBellWorks.com to apply for a job. Great promotional opportunities, free food while you work, half your wages the next day after your shift. If you're looking for a new job, think Taco Bell. SON Management Group and the Nicolason family, and TacoBellWorks.com. Taco Bell serves up some of the best breakfast in the Valley. Try the breakfast sausage quesadilla, the breakfast California crunch wrap, the toasted breakfast sausage or bacon burrito, or the breakfast crunch wrap combo. Bronco Nation News thanks Taco Bell, the SON Management Group, and the Nicolason family for their support. Get more information on their impact on the community and apply for a job at TacoBellWorks.com. Check out the Blue and Orange Store for all your Boise State gear. The BlueandOrangeStore.com has great deals on the latest hats, jerseys, sweatshirts, jackets, bumper stickers, car flags, and more. Get the latest Ashton Genty Heisman shirts, the NIL gear, coaches sideline apparel, and more. You have many options when it comes to buying your Boise State gear, but you won't find a better and bigger selection than the Blue and Orange Store. Thanks to Travis Hawks and company for their support. Return the favor and shop at the Blue and Orange Store and get ready for game day. Again, you can shop from anywhere online at theblueandorangestore.com or check them out the second floor of the Boise Town Square Mall. The best way to start your day is at Jackson's. Step inside Jackson's food stores and discover convenience that goes beyond the pump. From fresh brewed coffee and delicious snacks to a wide selection of groceries and everyday essentials, we've got you covered. Jackson's supports Boise State through NIL deals for Ahmed Hassanin and Breezy Dubar. Don't forget, 25 cents from every hot dog purchase from a Treasure Valley Jackson store goes directly to the Horseshoe Collective. Snag that free banana when you buy a fountain drink, coffee, deli sandwich, or wrap. Find a location near you and sign up for Let's Go Rewards at Jacksons.com. Check out Snake River Pool and Spa, Idaho's #1 local dealer for over 45 years. Whether it's a hot spring spa like the Rains family has, or a pool table, sauna, patio furniture, and more, check out Snake River Pool and Spa. Locations in Twin Falls, Boise, Meridian, Nampa. Snake River Pool and Spa, Patio and Game are proud partner of Bronco Athletics, supporting the Broncos pools and spas. Check out thespateam.com for pricing, brochures, financing options, specials, and more. Whether it's a hot spring spa, a pool table, or an air hockey table for the game room, Snake River Pool and Spa, Patio and Game has it all. The Rains family recently purchased our hot spring Limelight Flash Spa, and we couldn't be happier with the purchase. The installation process was easy, and the spa was up and running in no time. Check out their full inventory and turn your dream into a reality at thespateam.com.
All right, Ball Talk Season 2, Episode 2. Before we get into our picks, real quick, Sandman, you keep mentioning you've done twice that Boise State doesn't look like a G5 team. You've seen G5 teams. You've covered Colorado State multiple times. I think you're their new TV color analyst broadcaster. It's one of the gigs you have. I think you're calling Rams football this year, but you've seen both these two G5 teams, and there's no comparison really as far as one looking like a power and the other not.
That's not true. I think CSU looks pretty dang good.
Okay.
The thing that happened to CSU a year ago, man, the strength of that football team is the quarterback position. They had a top 10 passing offense in all of college football last year, and their perimeter, you think it's just Torrey Horton? It's not. They're 4 or 5 deep at really talented receivers. But last year, you remember that Boise State CSU game, man, they were depleted at running back. I mean, they were running back position. They had walk-ons toting the ball. They have really good returning running backs. Wow. And they look like a good football team. So
the two G5 teams you've got a close look at. Yeah, you're believers in both. They don't play this year, which is odd, but you never know about the Mountain West Championship game. Yeah, I kind of like Colorado State this year too. Yeah,
my gut feel from having gone to Wyoming, having gone to Colorado State, kind of knowing Air Force's situation, my gut is telling me with the departure of Jeff Tedford, especially as a play caller, even though they got Mikey Keene back playing quarterback for the Bulldogs, man, I just don't know about Fresno State this year. I think that Boise State is going to end up facing somebody from the Front Range, what we call here in the Rocky Mountain area, Wyoming. I think it's going to be Wyoming or CSU. I think Air Force is returning only like 6-7 starters out of 22. That's a team that you watch. They do a lot. There's a lot of peaks and valleys with that program. When they're senior heavy, the next year is usually like a 3-4 win team. I think that happens with Air Force. So I think it's going to be through the CSU Wyoming, which brings up our pick'ems.
Yes.
Because it involves one of those teams.
Circa Sports, last week 0, Coach, was 3-1. The only game you missed was the Florida State cover. I was 1-3. So maybe I won this thing last year. Maybe it was a fluke. Maybe it was luck. Saying, man, you're off to a good start. You start your first pick this week. Who you got and why?
I am all in on Upset City, the Wyoming Cowboys. Bring their brand of ride for the brand, cowboy tough. They're going to bring it to Tempe, Arizona, a team that's still in rebuild mode in year 2. Mm-hmm. And I think the Wyoming Cowboys, with so many returning starters on defense, 8 returners on the defense side of the ball, they have an offensive line that just looks good, man. And they have one of the best young tight ends in college football. And their quarterback is a 6'5", 245
You're a believer and you're a believer in the quarterback?
Yes, Evan Swoboda. I had a chance to watch him practice. They're not going to chuck it around the yard necessarily, but man, they're going to control the clock. They're going to control the tempo, and they are 7-point underdogs at ASU. I have Wyoming covering +7 against Arizona State. And before we do that, what happened in our week 0 results between me and you?
You were 3-1 and I was 1-3. You're making me say it again.
I just wanted to double check. Yeah.
2 of your wins, by the way, were taking the Mountain West teams, actually 3 of them, but you took you took New Mexico and you took Nevada and you came through. So let's see if you keep that Mountain West Mountain West skill, pick 'em style going and you get that one. I'm going, a very, very smart coach once told me, take the under on PJ Fleck and love yourself all the way to the bank. Tomorrow night, Mac Brown, North Carolina, PJ Fleck, Minnesota. This thing's on Fox. 51 is the over-under. I'm taking the under.
No Drake May, no Tez Walker for the Tar Heels. I mean, you're right. That is the ultimate lock right there.
Thank you.
Ultimate lock.
Take the under on PJ Fleck. Learn my lesson. So there's my pick. Who you got next?
All right. I'm staying Mountain West. I'm going very Mountain West theme here. And I'm going UNLV is traveling to Houston in the debut game for the Cougars of new head coach and one of my favorite, most respected coaches in college football, Willie Fritz, who brings his talents from Tulane, from NOLA down to Houston. He is a tremendous culture coach. There'll be immediate impact. To think that they don't have athletes at the University of Houston.
People are dogging Houston. They don't like the Fritz hire. They're crushing them.
They are the absolute, just cellar dweller pick for the Big 12. And I think that Willie Fritz and his athletes will have something to do with that. Houston's a 2.5 point favorite. I actually believe that Houston is going to cover 2.5 at home
against UNLV. I'm going the Ohio State Buckeyes, really the best team we've ever seen purchased in college football. The payroll, the roster, the transfer portal. Good for him, but there's not a coach under more pressure, I think, than Ryan Day. I could see him getting fired for losing in the second round of the tournament. They got to beat from the MAC. They're playing at Toledo, Akron, whoever the hell. I got to lay 48.5. This is crazy. I don't think I've ever laid this many points, but I just see 67-3, 58-0. Hell, I don't know, 71-6. I think Ryan Day, he needs to let everybody play. They're going to kick ass the whole time, and it's going to be a Buckeye blowout. Give me the Buckeyes. They're going to win this game by more than 50 points. What you got?
I'm going to a top 25 matchup versus an FCS team. And one of the teams that I think is the darling of the Big 12, and I think's had too many offseason storylines, is Oklahoma State. And the star running back who had the DUI, Ollie Gordon, I believe is his name.
Yep.
Gundy just talking crazy at Big 12 Media Day. I was there. They got the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State coming to town. That is a real football team. Oklahoma State is 9.5 point favorites. South Dakota State goes into the season as the preseason FCS number 1, if I'm not mistaken, or definitely in the top 3.
They're right there, man. Yep.
I've got South Dakota State covering plus 9.5. South Dakota State.
Dang, Sanford. I'm going Troy versus Slippy Slappy Swami, Nevada. You're fighting Jeff Choates. Great opener. I love it. Damn it, they should have won, but it's out. I think there's not enough air in the balloon there. They have to go to Troy, Alabama, humidity. The fact that Nevada looked good or SMU looked so piss poor is the reason Troy is only a 9-point favorite. Take Troy. They're going to cover the 9.
New head coach. Coaching change too there at Troy.
Yeah. Okay. You can take Nevada
all
plus
right.
9 if you still want to roll
head
with
coach?
it. Give me Troy minus 9. Who is Troy's coach? Do you know that guy too? I'm sure.
Yeah, so he was the offensive coordinator that essentially got ran out of South Bend, Gerard Parker.
Okay. Were you with with him ever?
That was in the last 2 or 3 years.
So there goes my pick. Just a psychological thing. I don't know anything about Troy. I know they're decent, high-level Sun Belt, but I just think it's going to be a Nevada running into a different atmosphere. And I got Troy minus 9. What's your fourth pick?
Yeah, I wasn't going to go with this, but because I did some on-ball talk research, I'm going to go right back to Troy versus Nevada. And I'm a believer in Jeff Choate. And I think that his program went through the fire against a very talented SMU team. They blew the lead. We all know that. But they did find something. And Jeff Choate is the right head coach for that program. Gerard Parker is filling huge shoes with John Summerall down there at Troy. I don't think it goes well at all down at Troy. I actually have heard some things. So I have Nevada covering, what was it, 9?
Yeah, you got Nevada plus 9.
Nevada plus 9.
God, am I going to lose 2 weeks in a row to Choate? Damn it. Okay. Virginia Tech, I know they don't matter anymore. They need to fix that. Very proud program. Blacksburg, great college town. Beamer ball, blocking punts, love it. They would love to hop in that time machine. They need a win. They need to look good. They got a lot of fans that are ready for Tech to mean something again. Throw that in the list of programs, Sanford, we're talking about. Of damn it, they just, like Georgia Tech, we were talking about, they don't mean anything anymore before they beat Florida State. Virginia Tech is one of those teams right now. I got to lay 13.5 at Vanderbilt. Like, come on, Virginia Tech. Meet me halfway here. Like, I'd love to see you matter again. You're good for college football. You're cool. You got the Metallica entrance. It's badass. Go down to Vandy and kick the Commodores' ass on the road. Win this game by 2 touchdowns. I got Virginia Tech minus 13.5, Coach.
All right, I'm going to stay in the Mount West. I got Colorado State traveling to Texas, to Austin, Texas, to play the Longhorns. Texas is giving up 32 points as the handicap, and I got Colorado State because of the quarterback that I just saw with ridiculous arm talent in Braden Fowler and Nicolosi, receiving core, the health of the football team. Vince Brown's a tight end. And I actually think that having 2 starting experienced safeties back for CSU between Henry Blackburn and Jack Howell on the other side, I think that this game's going to be a lot closer than people think. In fact, Texas has multiple running backs that are out for the season, and have even talked about bringing receivers over to play running back even in this game and for the season.
CJ Procise.
Well, that worked out pretty good.
That was your guy, man. Yeah, Notre Dame. You coached him.
But, you have a young running back playing in DKR for the first time, Darrell K. Royal Stadium, and you put the ball on the ground early, maybe twice. I actually think CSU could take this game into some deep waters in the fourth quarter.
Dang.
So I got CSU plus 32.
All right, my final one, Florida State. I think you're fragile. I think that locker room's fragile. I kind of saw that last year when everybody checked out because, we're not in the playoffs. So we're not even going to play this Sugar Bowl against Georgia. What? That's not big enough for you? That they seem like they're so gosh dang
front runners,
soft.
Man. Front runners.
Florida State, so soft. I'm not saying they're going to be 0-2, but they play, again, a standalone game, Labor Day, Monday night, coming back from Dublin, and they're a 16.5-point favorite over Boston College. BC sucks, but I just am not putting faith in Florida State to cover and win this thing by 17. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong and it clicks, but it seems Florida State's that type of team, like, the front runners. If they start 0-2, they can't recover from that. I don't think they're going to start 0-2, but they might beat BC, but I think it'll give them a little bit more. Is that your 4? Or if your 5 and my 5, I think we're done, right?
Let's do Boise State officially.
You're right. We do the BSU game. Coach, I'm going to take who are you taking? BSU?
Go ahead, Johnny. Go ahead.
I want to take Boise State. But I also like if you're going to take Boise State, maybe I would take the other so I can try to gain a game on you, that type of thing. But I think Boise State's going to cover. I don't think they can bottle Genty up. I really like this team. I see them every day. I think they are rocking and rolling and ready to go. And, man, I'll be really, really impressed with Georgia Southern if they're able to slow Boise State down. Give me the Broncos minus 13 at Circa Sports, Coach.
All right. I'm actually I already predicted Boise State to win this football game.
You did.
But for this competition, I'm going to go with an oddball here. I'm going to take the under.
Okay.
The under is set on ESPN Bet at 56.5. Make sure I'm reading that correctly. So I think that one of two things is going to happen. Either Boise State's going to come out and execute at an incredibly high level and frankly dominate this football game. I don't think they'd score 60 points or 42 points.
Not like you guys used to.
Correct. Or the heat and humidity and fatigue does play a factor into some of those second half scoring opportunities for Boise State, frankly. And so I think this is going to be not only a bit more of a kind of a contested football game, there's going to be a lot of wasted energy on just anxiety of excitement. And then the heat factor, the humidity factor. I just don't see that 57 or more points are going to be scored. I'm taking the under on this game.
Under 56.5, Sanford. All right, those are your week 1 Ball Talk picks. I got one more thing before we get out of here. Got to pick your brain on one other thing, and we will talk about this next week when we get ready for Oregon. I mean, that's going to be a hell of a show. But looking ahead, when you got the monster
Johnny.
2 weeks,
don't do it. Don't
give
look
me some
ahead,
examples. Do they, coaches, you guys are that strong, you can just totally map that out and you can convince the kids to forget about it too? Like, what are the strategies there? You freaking coached at Notre Dame, man. Stanford with the Andrew Luck era. Like, you guys had USC after the trip to Pullman, right? You guys had USC after Navy. Like, you've had that in your schedule where you know you got the nugget in 2 weeks, but of course you don't want to think about it yet. How do you do it?
Yeah, I actually don't think that's as big as a problem as us idiots in the media make
no
it out
coaches
to be.
do. Yeah, no coaches ever think it's a problem.
And I think it's like you spend so much time as players and coaches on your upcoming opponent that there really is no bandwidth mentally, emotionally to even kind of consider what's ahead beyond what's right in front of your face. So I don't think that plays a role at all in this football game. And I wouldn't even say that, like, there's no college football coach, head coach that doesn't effectively prevent that from happening. Everybody does it, right? Like, everybody keeps the main thing like that. That's never been a problem in any place that I've ever coached as an assistant. There's just too much work. There's too much right in front of you. There's too many, like, there's players that have performance anxiety curve going on in real time just for this first game, even if you've played a lot of football. So I don't, no matter what happens in the Georgia Southern game, it's not going to be anything related to what is lying ahead with Oregon following the following week at all.
It just doesn't matter. All right, before I let you go, it's the second time I'm saying this. Oddly enough, the game that interests me tomorrow more than freaking anything is in Boulder with Prime against the FCS Alabama, the Bison, North Dakota State. Like, this, I mean, I hate to say Prime has to win this thing, but do you know how ugly Friday is going to be in the sports radio circuit, where there's like nothing to talk about except Dion being possibly, I don't know, petulant in his post-game presser after he just got his teeth knocked out by an FCS powerhouse and Sanford's cameras flying all over the place, showing us the CU helmet. Tell me about this game tomorrow. No one's as close to CU. I don't know anybody closer to CU than you, dude. Like, is Prime in trouble? Could we see this tomorrow?
Yeah, this game's going to be really interesting. And I think for everybody that's tuning in, like, if you want to watch the classic just chess match of, skill position, heavy CU football with some of the best talent at wide receiver and DB in the country, but very unknown in the trenches. And they turned over their entire offensive line yet again. They turned it over before last season, and then they turned it over for the 24 season.
Yeah.
Even the defensive front. You're going to be able to see 3 series of each offense and defense into this game. So I'd say like 6 series into this game where CU is at, because this is a great litmus test for CU's trenches. North Dakota State's going to give up some length. They're going to give up some size. That's just what North Dakota State has to do when you're going up against a Power 5 opponent. But man, they're well coached. Man, they have a culture. They are so active they play with their hands. They play with great technique. Nobody gets out of their run fits. They are so sound on both sides of the football. And if CU is having a hard time stopping the run game, and I'm not talking about getting gashed for 20, but if it's 3-4 yards early per pop in the run game, man, those body blows early on, they lead to knockout shots late. And if CU looks like they're controlling the trenches after the first 3 series, I think that CU is going to dominate this game. If this is not great and Shedeur is still kind of running for his life and takes an early sack or 2, watch out. It's going to be really, really interesting.
Okay, I think so too. And then just one more quick thing. When you recruited Christian McCaffrey, signed him at Stanford, the best running back in the league, going number 1 in all the fantasy drafts. What was that like in recruitment? I know he was a legacy. Mom and dad went to Stanford, but I still don't think you guys thought it was a lock. You were working for Harbaugh, David Shaw then, and those guys at Stanford. You were what? The running backs coach, quarterbacks coach, OC? I can't remember exactly the title.
Running backs the first 2 years and recruiting coordinator. And then the 3rd year, I was quarterback and wide receiver coach.
How'd you get McCaffrey?
Well, he offered him early, evaluated him early, projected him as a starter on our football team at about 7 different positions, to be very candid. And, his older brother, Max, who ended up playing at Duke, I think he didn't want to be in the shadow of Ed McCaffrey as the next McCaffrey that comes, and it's a legacy. It's the silver spooner. Christian didn't see anything that way. Christian said, I'm going to make my own legacy. And clearly he has. The recruitment was not hard. It was more about the evaluation, to really put our neck out on the line early on. And me as the position recruiter at running back to say, this dude would actually probably start for us, as a sophomore at multiple positions, sophomore in high school. At multiple positions.
So you see him as a sophomore in high school. You go back and you go into Coach Shaw's office, and he's like, "What? Yeah, tell me how good he is, huh? What do you say?"
This is exactly how the conversation went.
Tell me how good he is. Yeah, Coach.
Even better than that is that I had fallen in love with this tape. His area recruiter at the time was Randy Hart, a Husky legend, defensive line coach from the University of Washington Huskies. Still to this day, the best defensive line coach that I have ever met. And I run into him from time to time. I love the man. He was like, Mikey, he was like 60 something odd years old. We got to get an offer into this Christian McCaffrey kid. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I got to talk the offensive coordinator into it. I got to talk the head coach into it. So I actually decided to go early when we played at CU in 2012. And so I flew to CU, or I flew to Denver. It was my first time in the state of Colorado. I'd never been there, ironically.
Wow.
And,
okay.
And so I go to his game at Valor Christian, scored a touchdown as a Wildcat quarterback, scored a touchdown on a pick 6 at corner, scored a touchdown on kickoff return, ran for like every way that you can possibly score. He did it in the game. So the next morning was game day. We were playing CU, and we were at breakfast. Everyone's kind of groggy, travel weary. We had like a noon kickoff, so we're waking up at dark 30, and I'm sitting there scooping my eggs. Coach Shaw's right next to me. He goes, exactly what you said. He's like, so he was so good, wasn't he? Something like that. I go, Coach, I don't know if you'd beat out Stephon Taylor today to be our starting tailback today, because Stephon was leading rusher in college football.
Yeah.
But he would probably, I said, he would start at corner, at nickel. He'd be our starting kickoff returner, our starting punt returner for the game today. And he's a sophomore in high school.
That's how good Christian McCaffrey is. That a decently high level of high school ball in the Denver area too that he was playing?
Yeah. Valor Christian would be like the equivalent of, Bishop Gorman relative to Vegas, right? Yeah. I mean, especially in that era, Jack Del Rio's kids, their quarterback, they had all the McCaffrey boys went through there. It was kind of a who's who. Wyndham Clark, the golfers, a Valor Christian guy. I mean, they very strong athletically. So
big program.
All right.
Well, yeah, big program. Tomorrow, I think are you on the air in Denver on altitude with Demps tomorrow?
Yeah, it's 10 to noon tomorrow. I'm not going head to head with you, Johnny. So, download the Altitude app. You can listen 10 to noon. We have a big preview of the CU North Dakota State game. And then Friday, I'll be right back on the air to break down whatever the hell is going to happen in Folsom Field. It's going to be really interesting. I cannot wait to watch it.
It's here, man. Week 1, like I said, games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday of college football. 5 days. Always appreciate you guys on Ball Talk. BJ wants us to ask, but please hit the like button if you wouldn't mind.
Pound
Please
that
hit
like, pound
the
that
subscribe button. Tell your friends, share it. We're
Turn
trying
on
to
your
make this.
notifications on YouTube. So anytime some new content comes out, boom, I got to get on Bronco Nation News. It's going to be awesome.
Love it. All right. Ball Talk. See you Wednesday of next week with Boise State 1-0 going into Autzen. Oh, I stinking love it. Coach, you're the best, man. See you next week.
We'll see you, brother.